Here I am. Live at 5. On a Thursday. On Tuesday, I had a very important task at hand. I went to tell a very, very good friend and mentor goodbye. I was able to make it on time. I got down there. We were able to go to his home, and I got to say the things I wanted to say. A few hours later, he said goodbye. He was gone. Harry Scott Scruggs. Scott Scruggs. Sledge. Scott Sheridan. Or as the way I will always and forever know him and remember him, Scott Savage. I was told by his brother and also very dear friend, K.D. Scruggs. You may see him on here as Adam Wolf, but I was told that they moved Scott from the rehab center to the hospital, and pretty much immediately started end of life preparation. And I told KD how important it was to me to actually get to speak to him before he left. And hospice allowed him, they allowed him to go home, and hospice took over. And KD told me on the phone, he says, man, he goes, I was talking to Scott. Scott he was having a hard time speaking, but he said, man, I'm going to bring Clayton by. Would you like for Clayton to come visit you? And Katie said he did his eyes like this and muttered the word absolutely. Nothing was going to stop me at that point. And it did me a lot of good to go and see him. I'm going to make an announcement here. If there's anyone in the area, or you're not in the area and you want to send condolences to the family or come visit the family, they will be accepting visitors this Saturday, May 29th, between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. at Egger, exactly what it sounds like, Egger, Funeral Home. 4076 U.S. Highway 221, and I guess it's building A, Cliffside, North Carolina. I'll say that again before I sign off, but when I first moved to Charlotte in it must have been the fall of '82. I didn't know too many people around here. I'd been coming to Charlotte, well, all my life, but as a teenager, going to record stores and stuff, a few years before. I came to Charlotte to go to Central Piedmont Community College to get a degree in advertising design. Well, there's plenty of distractions for a small town guy like me in a city like Charlotte back in 1982. One of those distractions was the Record Exchange on Eastway Drive. The strip mall's still there, but there's no indication that it was ever a record store. But it was a chain of record stores in North, South Carolina, and Virginia, and maybe more. I don't remember. But moving here, I quickly discovered where it was. And the main guy working the place was a guy I had seen on stage a few months prior. A guy named Scott Savage. I went to see his band The Streets at the Milestone. I was not a Charlotte resident yet, but needless to say, I mean, that's when during those times you're looking for any and everything to latch onto. And man, I wandered into it. I'd come into a street show because I saw the flyer for the show in New World Records. And it had a picture of Scott on the flyer, singing. And it said, "The Streets, Charlotte's most dangerous band." I had to go. Well, man, The Streets, to me, other people may see it different. They were equal parts, and mainly because of Scott's persona. Equal parts The Doors, Patti Smith, Velvet Underground, and some of the more slowed down, real dirty stooges. And during one, I guess really Velvet Underground influenced crazy psych jam, Scott picked me out of the audience because I'm up front. I got my shaved head and everything, and ready for a night out on the streets, to see the streets. And Scott gets me involved in a screaming contest with him. I'm not sure who won, but it was a lot of fun. Especially, I keep bringing up the point. I bring it up all the time. about, especially Joe and I being such small town guys, but you wonder, well, why is it so important? It is important. And it's not just southern small town, but man, it's small town everywhere USA, man. Um, we were starving for stuff, stuff to discover. And man, that night, I was like, not only did I discover this, but I was accepted. And I talked to Scott after the show, and I told him I was moving to Charlotte soon, and he told me about the record exchange. Probably wrote the address down or something, and so I made it my business to find it immediately when I moved there. And man, it became like a second home. Not just because of records and all that, but because Scott Savage worked there, Pete Cherry worked there, Reed Hardis, all guys that would become a part of my development in this city. And so it's hard to explain, but man, there's so much that we did in those early days, especially. Scott's fingerprint is all over it. And sometimes, not just figuratively, literally. I explained this to KD the other day when we were riding around, I think. It's just like, when we formed ANTiSEEN in '83, I was only there a little, like maybe a year before I got that going, like full steam. It's like we had this ship built, but we didn't know how to steer it. Scott gave us the pointers and showed us some of the ins and outs of how to steer that ship. I spent some time as Scott's personal bodyguard, because some nights he could get really belligerent, depending on how much alcohol he had during their show and stuff, and I'd kind of have to get him out of there sometime, and I was just like, yeah, sure. I'd get in the show. It's like everything we did back then. The motivation was, I can get in for free. It's like couldn't swing the $3 or $5 cover charge, but. I traveled with the streets after that, humping equipment. Scott was also the first one to ever convince us that we could actually put out a record. We're just like, man, that was foreign to us. Like, how would you even do that? Scott pretty much showed us the way. The session where we recorded Drastic was a class project for Scott's brother-in-law, Kent Masterman, at Central Piedmont Community College. And Scott, he was going to be a producer. The guy from the Streets that played bass for the Streets, Jeff Murdoch, rest in peace, was the engineer. And but I got a little bit ahead of myself, man. Previous to this, Scott was the first person to ever record us. After hours at the record exchange on 2 different sessions, he had I guess it was a 4-track, and recorded some of the earliest ANTiSEEN stuff. I mean, it was the lineup of myself, Joe Young, Bill Cates, and Brad Keeter. And I've still got both of those reels. And I have discussed putting it out before with Mark Rainey at TKO, that we would call it some kind of, the dawn of ANTiSEEN thing. because it was the first stuff we ever did. And, you know, the fact that we never really did anything with it was no reflection on Scott and his recording of us, but more because of our professionalism or lack thereof at that point. And but now, you know, since ANTiSEEN is in year number 38, I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing that stuff. I mean, you know, we're not going to put it out as like, oh, the great lost stuff. You know, we're just going to say, look, here it is, the dawn of it all. And Scott was there. Scott was behind the entire thing. He made it all happen. He was always giving me advice, because we both come from pretty much, and for the first time in the whole time I've known the Scruggs family, I was in Cliffside this weekend, or this Tuesday, for the first time ever. That's where I got this, KD gave me this Make Cliffside Great Again hat. And, you know, I realized that, that seeing Cliffside was very, very much like New London and Albemarle. And then the discussions we had about our parents seemed to be very much the same, especially our mothers and our upbringing. And so Scott was the one that was kind of smartening me up for living in Charlotte, you know, because like I had this little efficiency apartment. I was by myself. I was supposed to be going to Central Piedmont, but like I said, distractions. Music was the biggest one. And I remember him telling me, he's like, and Scott had this way of delivery that I'm not sure I can duplicate, but it was, it was cooler than the character on Fast Times at Ridgemont High that was saying, hey, wherever you are, that's the place. Well, Scott was cooler than that guy. And he would just be leaning back in his stool there at the record exchange, and he said, well, first he called me Clayton, then he started calling me Bullet because of my shaved head. But he'd say, Bullet, the main thing you got to remember living in the city, keep your hands out of your pocket and don't talk any shit. And I was like, okay. And you know, I think about that every time I go somewhere that I've never been before. You know, keep your hands out of your pocket and don't talk any shit. And that's not the only bit of advice he ever gave. There's tons. But that one always kind of surfaces to the top. And also, before ANTiSEEN, I did a fanzine called New Breed, and Scott's guidance was all over that. I remember we used to I'd go to his house, you know, where him and Meg lived, and we'd sit at the table cutting, pasting everything, and man, it's just the influence that he had on me personally is immeasurable. I can't say, oh, this percentage. Because, man, when we started, and everyone pretty much thought we were a joke, only 2 people in this town thought otherwise early on. And luckily for us, there were people with pull. One of them was Scott. The other was a writer for the Charlotte Observer named David Earl. Rest in peace, also. And, but Scott saw something in us, man, that no one else song. And I felt that years later we were able to pay tribute back to him because, you know, after the Streets, I don't know what Scott did immediately, but eventually he ended up with Adam Shane, who did a full-length CD, which we covered a song from. The song called It All Breaks Down. That was an Adam Shane song that was written by Scott. And it was the A-side to our very first record we ever did for Japan. And but like everyone, man, in time you drift apart. Scott eventually, I guess, once he was back in Cliffside, maybe even before that, he was doing like a studio project called Dark Riders, and he was always sending me the stuff, you know. Like, I would say Katie and I stayed in touch the most, or the most frequent, but this part's going to be rough. We finally got a lineup of the band that we have now. Mad Brother Ward, Barry Hannibal, Malcolm Tent, myself. Anything we want to do with this band, we can do. And Scott and I discussed, man, back in 84, 85 or something, hey, you know, because we both had a strong love for Steppenwolf. And we were just like, man, we need to do a duet on the song Who Needs You? I mean, it's one of them things, like, it always gets put in it's in the file. Oh, yeah, it's there. That idea's there. When's it going to happen? Well, we're looking at 38 years later, and we finally got it recorded and sent it to Scott. Scott approved. He loved it. He couldn't wait to do his part. But that would never come. I mean, I don't know if I learned a lesson, but I did learn that I do not have all the time in the world. And when I spoke to him on Tuesday, one of the things I said was, I will never forgive myself for not making this stuff happen much earlier. And I won't. One of the first things Scott ever did, and I don't have a lot of information on this, but this came out in 1978. Scott gave me one. I still have the copy he gave me, but since then I bought. Every time I see it, I buy it. This one came from Paris, on Discogs recently. I don't know. And I asked Scott directly. Like we were texting a lot over the last few months, over the last year, I guess. And I was trying to get from like how many of these were pressed. Um, I'm thinking if it was 1,000, I'd see a hell of a lot more of them around town than I do. So I'm thinking 300, maybe 500. If there's anyone out there that knows and can contact me, man, I would love to have that information. It's called Scott Savage's Memento Mori. And a reissue of this is coming out on, it will be the first release on my new record label, Long Haired Weirdo Records. It's coming. And I'm just going to do a bunch of reissue stuff, and I got the permission. Well, Scott gave me permission for this originally, and I've got the permission from the remaining Scruggs family to do this, and it's just something I want to do. Wanted to do it for a long time. This is going to be it, and I'm going to do a pressing of 300. I would love to know what this original pressing. They called this label American Terrorist Records. Wouldn't get away with that today, but it's not. I'm not putting out ANTiSEEN clones. I can tell you that. Okay. I'm just. This is a piece of Charlotte history, and I want it to carry on. So I hope I saw a post there pledging support. I hope I can count on you. It's not what you're used to hearing from me, but I think all of you that have joined me on here know that I'm into a lot of different things, not just loud, fast rules, you know. But if you're just tuning in and you would like to pay your respects to the Scruggs family, this Saturday, May 29th, at Egger, Egger, Funeral Home, 4076 U.S. Highway 221 A, Cliffside, North Carolina. And if you have, if you're watching this later on and you're having trouble getting it, I would have to write it backwards and stuff. I'm not feeling too industrious today, but that's this Saturday, 1 to 3, Egger Funeral Home, Cliffside, North Carolina. The family will be accepting visitors. Hell, I had it feels like I had tons more to say, but I just don't it's not that I'm at a loss of what to say. I just don't want to keep repeating myself. I got to spend the entire day, not the entire day, most of the early part of the day with KD. And I think it was very therapeutic for the both of us. You know, we told a bunch of Scott stories, we're laughing. Went and visited Jackie B. For those of you who are familiar with the Eat More Possum album, he's the guy that everyone thinks those skits are me, but none of them are me. But it's Jackie B. Goforth. Rest in peace. He's the one that starts out and going, you know, saying, man, I was freed. Sitting around listening to P-Funk. Wasn't bothered nothing. That's Jackie B. We went and visited him for the first Jackie B. Memorial Gathering. I can promise you this. Any more projects we have up our sleeve from here on, we will not be dragging our feet. Hell, man, I don't know how much time I got here. None of us do. I'll go off subject here for a second. Scott would have got a fucking kick out of this. But the Straight to Hell Toy Company has seen fit to put out the Jeff Clayton action figure. 2 variants, blue shirt, red shirt. Red shirt only 66. Blue shirt is the most prominent. Now y'all are going, well damn, Jeff Clayton, how the hell are we supposed to get those? Well, I don't have enough to sell to the public. But the good folks at Straight to Hell have assured me their shop on Etsy will be open next week. They've shut it down for 2 weeks to welcome in the birth of their second little girl. So congratulations, and the shop will be back up, and you'll be able to get it. I'll keep you posted on that. I just I kind of feel like I'm just kind of winding down, and I thought I was going to be a little bit more up and a little more in character, but I can't find it today. Hope you understand, and I appreciate you all for sticking around. I know as soon as I sign off, I'll think of something else I should have said, but I just will. I'll go ahead and end. If you're out there and you got a drink, please join me. To Harry Scott Scruggs, Scott Savage. Rest in peace, rest in power. I'll never forget you, and I love you. Because you know what's going to happen, what we got to do. One of these days, we all got to break on through.